Today's guest on the podcast is Susan Lacke. I finally got to meet her at the Outspoke Summit in Arizona last weekend, which by the time this podcast airs, maybe a couple weeks. But she is the author of the book, Life's Too Short to Go This Effing Slow, and the new book, Running Outside the Comfort Zone. She's an endurance athlete, a writer, and a very fantastic person. She's also hearing impaired, which made this interview very interesting from a recording standpoint, because usually I do them remotely, but luckily we were able to do this in person. So hopefully you guys will be able to get the podcast and hear it. I think we did a great job with the resources we had, which was an iPhone. So hope you all enjoyed this amazing episode with Susan Lacke. Hi, and welcome to the Same 24 Hours podcast. I'm Meredith Atwood, author of the book, The Year of No Nonsense. I'm a former attorney turned writer, speaker, and Ironman triathlete. Although right now, all I really like to do is lift weights. We all have the same 24 hours, but it's what we do in those hours that leads to our greatest health, happiness, and success. It's my goal to crack the code on a life of less nonsense so we can all make the most of our 24 hours. So let's get started. I'm coming to you from the Outspoken Summit, where I'm actually here with Susan Lacke, author of the new book, Running Outside the Comfort Zone. But you may know her for her prior book, Life's Too Short to Go So Fucking Slow. She's telling me. Hi, Susan. Welcome. So what inspired you to write your new book?
I've been a runner and triathlete for about 10 years. And during that time, I've never really fully felt like I fit in, like I'm really an athlete. I've always qualified my performances with, well, I'm slow, so it doesn't count.
Right.
Or it's only a sprint triathlon. It's
right.
not an Ironman or anything. And even when I did do an Ironman, I still didn't feel like I belonged.
Right.
And so this feeling has gnawed at me for quite some time. And I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to be a real runner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And so I set out to qualify for the Boston Marathon because I thought that's what real runners do.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get faster. I'm going to make this happen. And I was losing weight and I was getting faster. My coach was really pushing me to get better, and it was working. But I was also hungry all the time. I was tired.
Yeah.
I was angry.
Angry because you were hungry?
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
I had stopped loving running.
Yeah.
I started to hate it. I started to resent it.
So how much time before you started to hate it? Like, you decided to do this, and then how much time before it really wore you down?
It was pretty instant. The thing that I've learned about myself is that I run because I love running. As soon as I set any sort of outcome to it, I lose sight of the process.
Yes.
And that's what I learned while I was writing this book, Running Outside the Comfort Zone, because I hit a tipping point where I really hated running and I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah. And I was beating myself up for it. I was feeling like a failure. And finally I said, you know what? If I'm not a real runner, and I'm never going to be a real runner, I'm going the complete opposite direction. I'm going to spend a year doing all of these races that I never had time to do or desire to do, because it's not what real runners would do.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
So I gave myself permission to sign up for these insane, crazy, silly races. So, for example, the Red Bull 400 is a race where you sprint up a ski jump at altitude for 400 meters. It literally will take your breath away. It's not something that conventional runners do.
Right.
It's really for the more extreme athletes, right? But I signed up for that. I also signed up to run across the Grand Canyon with my friend Heidi. I did a naked 5K.
A naked 5K? Like buck naked?
Yeah, I took my clothes off and I ran a 5K. I smuggled running shoes into Cuba with an organization that helps runners that are in impoverished areas. I did all of these adventures and activities that real runners don't do because they don't have a tangible outcome like a bus and qualifying time.
Right. Because it's really about the experience in these races.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I spent this whole year doing these adventures, traveling the world, and in this time, I met hundreds, if not thousands, of runners. And at the end of this year, I was looking back on that experience, and I realized I had never met a fake runner in all of these unreal races. So what if there is no such thing? I've been searching to become this real runner, this qualifier of some sort, and it doesn't exist. And I also realized that during this year, wild, wacky, crazy adventure, I fell in love with running again.
Yeah.
And now I can say, yes, I am a real runner. And I'm a runner who runs because I love running. Not because I need to hit some obligatory number, not because I need to wear a medal on my neck, but just because I want to see what's on the top of that mountain over there. So I'm going to run up
on top of the ski slope.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So I know everyone asked you about the naked 5K, but for real, what was that like? I mean, are you like a naked person? Are you like free in your nakedness? Because I'm not. Like, I grew up in a very like closed household. Now, my house now, like my kids are always naked, so I think that they would be fine with a naked 5K, but I don't know, like, how was that? Okay, so first question, are you a naked person?
I am not typically a very free spirit like that. No, I am a writer, so I work from home, which means that I usually don't wear pants while I'm working, but that's from my couch with the blind clothes. So no, I'm not the type of person that would be an exhibitionist in any way. But someone told me about this race and it fit in with my theme of the year, which is I'm going to let myself do all of these crazy experiences as a runner. And
how were your boobs though? Like that is
everyone asked me that question. I will never take a sports bra for granted ever again. That's for sure. It was a different experience. But you'll have to read about it in the book, Running Outside the Comfort Zone. But I will say that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot of creepy perverts. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And that surprised me. And I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So where did you learn the concept that you were not a runner? So I know where my concept came from. I was playing basketball as a middle schooler. And someone said to me, you're never going to be a runner if you run like you just did in that game. And I thought, but I was running and I was very young. But from that moment on, it never occurred to me I wasn't a runner until that moment. And that has stuck with me. And I just love this idea of your book because it like hits me in the heart because I still have that, thought when I'm out running. Like I'm doing the motion of running and I'm like, I'm not a runner. So where did you learn that you weren't a runner? Like how early was it?
I think a lot of people in the sport feel like in order to be a real runner, you have to be super fast. You have to be super skinny. Yeah. You have to not have any complications. And the thing that always throws me is they always have perfect hair, right? They have the perfect ponytail that never gets messed up.
Perfect hair.
We come up with these ideas, and I think that makes us feel a little less pressure about what we're doing, where we don't feel like we have to qualify our performance in any way, where we can say, well, those are the real runners. I'm just over here doing the motion.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes a little bit of the spotlight off of us. I don't know that I ever explicitly was told you are not a real runner, but I know that I've never got the idea of what a lot of people have.
Right. As a runner.
Yeah. So, I didn't grow up as an athletic person. I, started, running 10 years ago as an overweight, chain-smoking alcoholic. I kind of fell into running by accident. My boss convinced me it would be a good idea. And because he was my boss, I couldn't say no.
Right.
And so I started exercising. But then my boss, who was a 13-time Ironman, had this really interesting way of inspiring me.
And this is Carlos.
This is Carlos, my boss. And he inspired me to sign up for an Ironman triathlon, even though I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Right.
I didn't own a bike. I hadn't done a half marathon, anything, but I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And the next thing I knew, I was becoming a triathlete, right? But I still never felt like a triathlete. I would look around me and everybody would be super fit, super skinny. They walked and talked like they knew what they were doing.
Right.
I didn't. I was just kind of faking it. And then even after I finished my first Ironman, I remember having this recurring dream that someone would ring my doorbell and it would be a representative from Ironman who would say that we made a mistake.
You're a fraud.
Yeah, give us your medal back.
Right.
And so I had this idea built up in my head that I didn't quite belong. And then I started writing about running and triathlon as a career. And again, this is something I fell into by accident. But I remember the first few times that I would meet people, they would get kind of thrown because I don't look like your typical runner or triathlete. I'm a little bit overweight. I don't really have a lot of muscle tone. I'm not like a super fit, hardcore athlete. But also I'm deaf. And a lot of people would ask questions about, well, how do you do this if you're deaf? And it never occurred to me that some people would think that I can't be a runner or triathlete just because my ears don't work.
Right.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But that made me feel self-conscious. Like I really don't belong here.
Right.
And so this idea just kept reinforcing this nagging feeling that I had that I was a fraud, that I didn't belong in the community, even though I was doing the same thing that everybody else was, which was swimming, cycling, running.
Yeah. So what made you finally say, I belong? Exactly as I am, here I am, I belong, wherever I am. I mean, I think that's the theme, right? We belong wherever we are.
Absolutely. There was a moment when I was doing the Comrade Ultramarathon in South Africa. And I was running along and...
Is that the desert? Mm-hmm. The desert marathon?
Yeah, and it was this huge crowd of people who was watching. And within the crowd, there was a drum band. And so they were all, they were drumming this really intense beat that I could feel in my chest. And I realized that without, even intending to, that I had fallen into step with this beat. And then I looked around me and everybody was dancing to the same beat. The other runners had fallen into step with the same beat and I got chilled. I mean, It was just one of those moments where you're like, wait a second, like the universe is trying to tell me something here. Yeah. I'm in the middle of this race, 56 miles long. I didn't think I could ever have done that in my life, but I was challenging myself as a runner and I was stepping up to the challenge and I was surrounded by people who were also stepping up to that challenge, and for one moment we were all completely in sync. Wow. And that will never leave me, that realization that I have a place, that I do belong. I think that's what's so cool about running, is it teaches us a lot about ourselves when we least expect it. We don't tend to learn life lessons in marathons and triathlons. We get through. But then you just have this moment that just stops you. And you realize that you're stronger than you ever thought you could be, that you're better than you ever thought that you could be, that you need to give yourself more credit.
Yes.
And I love those moments. And I just wish I could bottle them up and just sell that, because I think we could all use a little bit more of those moments.
Yeah. Every time I'm on a race course, I have that moment. It's usually the longer ones because I think I hit a breaking point where I'm like, this is so hard. I feel like I'm dying. But I always have some moment where I'm just tired and grateful.
Yeah.
And that's what when you tell the drum beat story, I can almost feel those drums, like just hearing you tell it, because it's a feeling you have when you're out there not being a runner, running.
And I think fatigue is essential for us to learn. I think we have to stop shying away from the spotlight. I think we have to stop building up our defenses, and we have to stop justifying our existence. But that's hard to do constantly. We feel like we have to put on the show. We have to play the part. We have to act a certain way, dress a certain way. There is something about enjoying sport that just beats you down so much.
Right.
Where you're almost forced to learn the lesson, and that's so powerful.
Right. So you are a sober person. How long have you been sober?
I've been sober for 7 years.
7 years. So I'm almost 4 years. So
congratulations.
And you too. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, I run a sobriety community online, and you can watch people who struggle with the idea of getting sober, and they have a hard time coming to the decision of this no longer serves me, and I shouldn't probably be doing that for myself. So how did you come to the realization that I just don't drink anymore?
I didn't really come to the realization instantly. It was something that I knew for a long time that my drinking was a problem.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to admit that. I really didn't. Again, it was one of those things where I wanted to play the part. And so, in a way, the more I did as an endurance athlete, the more I drank. Because the more I didn't feel like I belonged, the more I felt like a fraud, the more I felt like I wasn't playing the part right, but also the more I felt like I needed to prove I wasn't an alcoholic.
Right. No, that's me too, because I would get blasted, get up, ride 100 miles, and be like, look, I'm healthy. I don't have a drinking problem.
I couldn't possibly. If I had a drinking problem, could I do an Ironman?
Right.
Of course
I
not.
did all my Ironmans drinking.
Absolutely.
I haven't done one since sober.
And I don't think people realize how pervasive that is. Ever since I've written about that in both of my books, written about getting sober, I have people contact me all the time, and they're also triathletes, they're also runners, and they say, I think I might have a problem. And I say, let's talk about that. I can't diagnose you, but they say, but if I'm running marathons, I'm okay, right? And also, well, I used to drink a lot, and I was able to train for Ironman. I was able to train for marathons, and I did it to prove that I wasn't an alcoholic.
Yes.
And I think that once people hear that, they realize, wait a second, that's something I'm doing too.
Yes. And you're the first person I've talked to that said that. And that is exactly what I've been saying, because everyone's like, oh my God, how did you do Ironman drinking? And I'm like, I was doing it to overcompensate.
Absolutely.
Now you can't get me out of bed at 3:30 to go get in the pool.
And I think it becomes a point of pride too, because as an endurance athlete, like, you can overcome muscle cramps, you can overcome, fatigue, you can overcome all these things. You can also overcome a hangover. You can beat your body into submission until it does what you want.
Yes.
And endurance athletes are so good at that. They are so good at ignoring the pain, ignoring the suffering. And it doesn't matter if you're not coming because, you're on mile 20 of a marathon, or because you drank 20 beers last night.
Right.
You can ignore it equally the same way.
Yeah.
So I did that for a really long time. And finally I got to a point where one morning I had woken up after a blackout, and I was lying on the floor in a pool of blood. And I realized that at some point during that blackout, I had fallen and I hit my head. And that was the moment I realized I no longer had control over my body. I couldn't run. And so it was a very shocking moment, but it was also the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Because at that moment, I went to my friends, I said I need help, and I swear the first time I said I'm an alcoholic, not I think I have a problem now, but I'm an alcoholic, it hit me.
Yeah.
And it was the sense of relief that I could finally stop fighting. I could finally respect my body and listen to my body, and work with instead of against my body. And that was, like I said, the worst, best thing that ever happened to me.
Right. I think the biggest relief I have from being sober is the fact that I don't have to negotiate with myself every day. So I would wake up and think, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. And then by noon, I'm like, well, I could have a glass of wine tonight. And then by 5 o'clock, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to have a whole bottle. And so that freedom, like when you say you admitted it, when I admitted it was freedom, because then you're not negotiating. You're not trying to keep up a front that you've got your shit together. Then you're just like, I got a problem with that. I'm not going to do it anymore. And yeah, it was very freeing. So.
And it forced me to confront those insecurities that I have about not feeling like I'm enough.
Right.
Because that didn't go away just because I stopped drinking.
It got worse.
It got worse.
Yeah.
And so now you have to learn how to deal with that and to live life on life's terms instead of my terms.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been easy, obviously. It's not something that was instantaneous, but being forced to do the work to accept myself as I am and to stop trying to play the part, to stop trying to discount what I do. Now I can say, I did this thing and I'm proud of it. Not I did this thing and maybe I might not belong necessarily, but I tried. No, I did it. I own everything that I do now, good and bad.
Yes.
And that's taken a long time, and it's still a process. It's still a work in progress.
That's awesome. So your book, Running Outside the Comfort Zone, available where all books are sold?
Yeah, so they're available online in running triathlon shops, in bookstores, and at SusanLacke.com.
SusanLacke.com. So one last question. This podcast is called The Same 24 Hours, meaning we all have the same 24 hours in our day, but it's what we do in those 24 hours that leads to our greatest health, happiness, and success. So I like to ask my guest, what is something you do on a daily basis that you think contributes to your best life? Like a habit or a mindset?
That's a really good question. I don't constantly follow any sort of habit or to-do list, but I do try to catch myself in the moment and think, this is nice, this is good.
Yeah.
And I think, especially these days, the world can kind of feel like a dumpster fire. And we can be surrounded by a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
So whenever I catch myself feeling happy, whenever I see somebody doing a good thing, whenever something positive is happening, I try to make it a point to stop and really soak that moment up, because I feel like that's happening so few and far between now. So really flexing that positivity muscle every day is something that's important to me, and it's really made a big change in my outlook.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Susan. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Same 24 Hours. Remember to rate, review, and share this podcast. It really matters. I appreciate it. See you next time.